Can I first of all thank Anna for inviting me to talk this morning? I'm a strong advocate of solving the problems of glaucoma, and I'm trying with Trish to help publicise the need to sort out the problems of glaucoma. I'm also aware that my being asked to speak this morning, there's nothing particularly spectacular about my glaucoma, and there's probably many people in the room who are a lot worse off than I am. So I am aware of that, but I've been asked to give you my sort of story this morning, and that's what I'll do. Jill and I, Jill sitting in the front here, have been in New Zealand for 12 years now. We're Brits, as you can probably tell. We're here partly because my dear daughter, with 12 million Brits to choose from, goes and chooses a Kiwi to marry. So that's partly the reason we're here this morning. My son also works here in New Zealand. Shortly, a year or so after coming here, I was diagnosed with glaucoma. I have what is called open-angle glaucoma in the right eye. So if you could imagine a circle broken down into 4 quadrants, I can only see out of the top left-hand quadrant in my right eye. And that's really only apparent when I close my left eye and I can see very little. As Anna has said, I have been involved in fundraising, usually around the Auckland Marathon Day, and Trish and I run the support group, the glaucoma support group on the North Shore, which is based in Glenfield and runs one Saturday a month. If you want to know more detail about that, please go to the glaucoma website, and details are on there. I've been asked to say, what's it like having glaucoma? A difficult question to answer, really. And what came to mind was a bit of a story, which I'll briefly cover. A few years ago, Jill and I were travelling through Europe, and we were in an Italian city, about to climb into a metro train. Just as the doors were closing and we were inside, and we were buffeted by a number of people, and as the doors closed, one of these people got out. And I thought, well, that's strange to jump on the train and then suddenly jump out at the end. And it wasn't until later on that day that I went into my pocket to buy something, and lo and behold, my wallet had disappeared. And I tell you this story because I related a bit to glaucoma. Mr. Glaucoma, because I take this personally, has pickpocketed my eyesight. All right? And I resent it because it causes me problems, mostly based around steps. You'll notice I jumped onto the stage rather than going up steps. I've had a number of incidents with steps. First of all, where was it? At Westfields in Takapuna, where I've managed to fall down those steps and tear my clothes and bruise my shoulder, and also falling up the steps at Mount Albert Park. If you know the concrete steps at Albert Park, there are 50 so many of them, and I managed to fall up all those steps. So steps are a real problem for me. It's that kind of short visual problem that I have. The other problem is I'm getting this haziness coming over my eyesight, which is quite a new problem for me, and it's very irritating, as you can imagine. I read a lot, and my ability to read can sometimes be impaired by not being able to see what I'm reading. And I've bought some eye drops, and I use eye drops, as probably many people here do, lubricant, and that does help me to some extent. Yes, I just mentioned that Wimbledon is on at the moment. I don't know how many tennis fans we have here, but it's very irritating trying to watch Wimbledon when you can't see the ball. I've written to Wimbledon to see if they'll play with bigger balls, but I haven't had a reply yet. Anyway, enough about my problems. I have to, at this point, acknowledge the help that I'm getting from Dr. Patel and his team at Green Lane. They're a fantastic team. They're so busy, and yet all the times I've been there, I don't believe I've been late on my appointment by more than 5 or 10 minutes. I don't know how they do it, but I'm going to refer them to my GP, who has nothing like that number of patients, but keeps me waiting up to half an hour. One of the things I always look forward to is the visual field test. What a wonderful product. I know how we all enjoy this visual. It reminds me of the Space Invaders. Some of you, I guess, remember this from the 1970s, where you had to eliminate the spots, the little Martians or something. It's very similar. Yeah. Good. I hope I've covered some of the issues in relation to my problems with glaucoma. Estelle, I'm sure, will add to this in a moment. I've been asked to give a couple of tips about the sort of problems that I have that I can perhaps pass on to you. Well, these are personal, of course. The first thing I found important is to always wear eye protection when I'm gardening. It's amazing when you're pruning a bush how the branches seem to spring into your face. And I'm always conscious of the fact that something could go into my good eye and cause damage. I noticed this morning the lady selling the visual aid material has got these sunglasses that fit over your glasses. I can thoroughly recommend them because they save a lot of money by keep buying prescriptive sunglasses. So I think they're well worth buying at the price. I don't know whether I get commission for saying that. Yes, I've mentioned that I always have a bottle of lubricant. It does change. I try different varieties, but I find, as I say, this hazy eye syndrome that I seem to get, I have to quite often keep using this lubricant. What I also have to watch out for is that if we do something different in the evening, go to a dance, go out for a meal, that does sometimes knock my schedule out for when I take my eye drops. I'm taking Combigan and Highsight are my main medications, but I can find that if I don't do them regularly, I can miss taking them, which I think is important. I never knew that I was going to get glaucoma, and it was a complete surprise to me when it happened. And I was checked back to see, had my parents had glaucoma? No. Had my grandparents had glaucoma? Well, I believe that my grandmother had glaucoma, although I, of course, never asked her. But I recollect that she had a patch over one eye on her glasses. One of her glasses was frosted, which perhaps leads me to believe, and this is obviously going back a long time, that she might have had glaucoma. But that also emphasises the fact that both our children and our grandchildren need to have regular checkups. So I do make sure, especially my grandchildren, have regular checkups for glaucoma. The last thing I would say in terms of tips is if you're not already a member of one of our support groups, please think about joining because, problem shared is a problem halved, as they say. And I think that's a very useful thing. It's not all doom and gloom. We have a great time. We have great speakers, and it's an enjoyable occasion. My hopes for the future for glaucoma are that I'm astounded and continue to be astounded that there are at least 50,000 New Zealanders who don't know that they have glaucoma. We can stand here this morning and say, oh, I wish there was a cure for glaucoma. But before we get to that, let's create much greater awareness of this problem. I cannot believe that 50,000 people don't know that they've got glaucoma. So let's tackle awareness first. And then once we've created the awareness, then we're going to get early diagnosis. And if we get early diagnosis, then it makes life much more comfortable for a lot more people. That's all I'm going to say this morning. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.